Welcome back to the corner of Whimsy and Bliss. I am Kina Renee and I'm here to share my progress. The beds are finally in. My Birdies Raised Beds are finally in. These are the 30-inch or 29-inch beds. I have them configured in the 6x6 configuration. I do have two arch trellises that are joining the four beds. And they're finally in. They finally have their soil in them. I do need to add the top layer to each one of the beds, which is my custom mix. What you're looking at here is mostly bulk filler. So there's like wood chip mulch at the very, very bottom. There's like raised bed mix. There's mushroom compost. There's composted manure. And then what's going to be going in the very top is the really rich, light, fluffy, well draining, moisture retentive type of type of potting mix. We're gonna try our best to get all four beds planted for the fall. I do have a little bit of a rookie mistake here. When I finally finished installing and assembling and filling, it was already late in the fall. It was, basically early October. And what I didn't account for is how the sun is now lower and how the sun is blocked by my house, which is behind me. So for the majority of the day, these two front beds are covered in shade. Now, they do get about 6 hours of sun. I could plant all of the leafy greens that love the shade, all of the herbs that love the shade, or I could just wait and plant them out in the spring when there is full sun. And for fall, just focus on the two beds in the back that do get full sun. So we still have a ton of cleanup work to do. That mulch there is going to go down to cover all of the landscape fabric. We did have to build this space up using cardboard and mulch to kind of get the beds level. Because of the way the property slopes from the back to the front toward the house, there was no way we were going to be able to get all four beds leveled with one another. So I elected to level the two front beds to one another, the two back beds to one another. And now we can go in and cover with mulch, which is going to be more comfortable to walk on. I've tried to walk on this landscaper's cloth when it's wet from the rain or even from watering. It's kind of dangerous, very slippery. And you can still feel how uneven, the grading is. So I'm thinking if I can put the mulch down and build it up, that'll give us, a more safe walking space. So these again are the 6x6 beds. These are the trellises that I elected to go for. One thing that I would have done differently, I would have waited to put them in. I should have filled the beds and then put them in, because as it is, they sank a little bit more than I would have liked. Also, I should have brought the beds a little bit closer together, because they're not intended to be more narrow at the top and wider at the bottom, but they ended up being that way because the beds were too far apart. I messed up in my measurements, but they work. They are stable. They are super sturdy. They're anchored very good. We get a lot of wind here in northern Alabama. And, I've been pulling on it and all of that fun stuff, and they seem to be holding up nicely. So, yeah. I left all of the plastic on the Birdies beds because, in full transparency, they are the exterior coating, the paint coating is fragile. Several of my Birdies, there were damaged panels in, whole boxes. Not terrible, nothing, so upsetting that I wanted to send them back. I did have to reach out to customer service and, request some touch-up paint because one, it's now exposed metal in several places, and it wasn't, some of them it was shipped that way. Now there was like one of the beds, the first bed that I put together, I caused some of the damage myself. But for the ones that were delivered that way, which I get, they're shipping all the way from Australia, I can see how they would suffer some type of damage in shipping and handling. But you still want to make sure that that exposed metal is covered with some type of paint so that it's not prone to rust. So I left the plastic on because I needed to make sure all of the work in this space was done before we peeled it all off and ran the risk of it being damaged. The same with over here, which this space I will plant out in the spring. I'm still trying to decide on the configuration that I want for it. Of course, this is in front of my shed, which is going to function as one, it's going to house inventory for my website, but also it will become a garden shed conversion space. I'm not going to, do anything to the roof to make it greenhouse or anything like that, but I will house, extra fertilizers, tools, coconut core, things like that in that space, because anything that I want to keep dry, I can house out there. But I got to figure out how I want to use the space, what I want to plant over here, how I want the beds configured. Do I want to take some of the beds out? That is a challenge for me right now. Ideally, I want it to be able to, I don't know. Like these beds here, the long ones, they are the short beds, but I configured them to, I want to say 10 feet. And I'm thinking I may just kind of line the sides of the fence, put them in front of the fence somewhere, someplace that gets a lot of sun, and ultimately grow corn in them and even grapes. I have 2 of that size. Of course, we have the 4 of the round. And then these 4 tall beds, they're the extra pieces that happened after I used 2 kits to build out the 6x6 beds. I had to purchase at the time, which was last March of 2025, I had to purchase 8 medium tall birdies because they didn't have the large tall birdies at the time. And I knew that I needed this configuration. So I went ahead and bought the 8, and then I just kind of, configured it the way that I needed it to be. And I figured I'd have the extra bed. So I didn't lose anything by buying the 8 beds and configuring them into these 4 large beds. They just gave me these 4 smaller ones, and that works for me. So I'm basically in the cleanup portion of the program, getting ready for fall. Everything it's over. Like, it's a mess, and I can't bring myself to plant anything fresh until I've cleaned all this up. This little tomato, it's not doing anything. It's not getting enough sun. It's only getting up to high 70s these days, and everything is a shadow at this point in October. So all of these plants are coming out. Everything's coming out. I'll save as much seed as I can, but I'll save as much soil as I can as well. I'm going to amend and refresh all of the soil and use anything that was spent. I have some wooden planter window boxes that I need to plant up. And then I also have 3 planters that I plan on using in my front yard for my fall decorations. So anything that's spent or old or just not performing well, it's coming out. This tomato is doing well, but there's just not enough time left in the season before our first frost for everything to ripen. So what I think I will do, I will harvest off everything that's of size, prune some of the things back to give it some strength, to be able to handle what's left of the season. This eggplant is not really doing anything. It has its buds, but they are not growing any fruit yet. We still have tons of bees in the yard, but maybe they don't like eggplant. These sunflowers are still doing a little something, so I will leave them. I need to give everything a good water. I try to let it dry out because we had some torrential rain earlier in the week, so everything just kind of needed to dry out. You see my fat fluffy bee? They're so cute. These zinnias are absolutely spent. It was such a battle this year fighting against the powdery mildew and all of the excess rain. So they were so beautiful at one point, but I just couldn't keep up with them. I couldn't keep them healthy and pruned back enough and sprayed enough with, like, you know, the DIY mixes for powdery mildew. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out, and hopefully we'll still have a few bees that will pop in and out to try and pollinate these eggplant. This one is actually growing some eggplant. Let's see if we can get in there. There's one little one, and there is a larger one right there. And then here's a purple one that's growing. So I'm gonna try and keep them alive. Everything needs some water right now, so they look a little dry. Need to get all the bad leaves and powdery mildew situated. This tomato plant, there are a couple of sizable tomatoes, but it's just not enough time left in the season for them, so they're gonna go. These marigolds, I'll pull them out. I'll leave those sunflowers. These zinnias will go. It's unfortunate because my cosmos finally showed up, but now it's time to let them go. Which I could hold on to this particular bag. This spot that I'm standing in is going to become my greenhouse. So this was a barrel of sweet potatoes. I harvested it, and in the process I was devoured by fire ants. So I'm reluctant to try and get the rest of them out. But those are sweet potatoes in there. Some beautiful alyssum. It finally showed up, and now it's time to pull it out. This particular bed, the ants were so aggressive in here. They've shifted all the soil. I have put stuff down, diatomaceous earth. You know, I'm trying to do everything organically. But if I can't get these potatoes out, I've got to do something to deal with these ants, and I'm willing to do that. All of the marigolds are, you know, history. So I got to clean all this up anyway, because all of this space here, you know, this little room, if you will, I kind of broke my grow space up into rooms. My greenhouse is 8 by 8, but I am putting it on a platform that is 14 by 14. I will be using some rainwater containment on that platform, because the greenhouse that I chose, it does have 4 downspouts and 4 gutters. So I'm going to, you know, make sure that there's room on the platform that I can have some type of containment for that water, and then of course I can water the garden with it. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be some green stalks in the future. I'm praying that there will be 4 green stalks in the future, and they will also be housed on that platform. So that's kind of why I'm building it bigger. It may even be 16 by 16, which the shed is 16 feet long, and that would make sense to kind of fill up this backyard space. I have to figure out what I'm going to do about my compost. Like, I have 2 of these tumblers, and then those 2 bins are full of compost. These bags, this is actually fresh soil that I mixed up that I was ready to plant in, but I had oh my gosh, I had the most beautiful, healthy, like nursery quality seedlings starts that I had started from seed, but it took so long for the beds to be assembled and for me to have help in moving all that soil that they started failing, you know, with all the rain and the heat, the pest pressure. they started failing. So I ultimately composted a whole a whole rack, like basically 27 10-20 trays worth of seedlings I had to compost, which is devastating. It totally set me back. So what I'm thinking of doing, just as a fun experiment, there's some extra sand and topsoil that kind of will go in my mix and different things, but that's all we have left of all of the soil and everything that we had, everything that I had to order to fill these beds, which the 6x6 bed holds 87 cubic feet of material. Whether you're doing hugelkultur, straight soil, junk soil, branches, twigs, leaves, and then good soil, you got to fill up 87 cubic feet per bed. So that was a lot of work. I thank goodness for college students. They were so gracious and generous to come and help me. And, we just got it done. And I'm so grateful for them, because without them, it would have taken me probably another year to, to fill each one of these beds all by myself. So now that they're planted, again, I think I will plant out these two because they will get the most sun. But I kind of want to do one bed that is strictly from seed, and then one bed I would like to do from seedlings. So I'm going to start some more seedlings today. I have my coconut coir hydrating so that I can, add in all of my other mixes. Oh, I hate to pull the zinnia out. Look at it. Oh, they're so beautiful. Okay, maybe one last treatment for the powdery mildew. Prune everything back really hard, and then try and harvest the taller plants and put them into smaller grow bags, because all of that soil in those Epic Gardening 60-gallon grow bags, all of that soil has to come out and go into one of the beds, basically get amended and, be used some other place. Because this entire space, I'll back up so you can get an idea of where the greenhouse is going to be. So basically where the umbrella is, back toward the fence, it's going to all be greenhouse. I want to make sure that I have at least 5-6 feet between the beds and the greenhouse entrance, so that I can get like my gorilla carts through. I can easily move things around. I need to have walking paths back here because the ground is so uneven. I do not want to run the risk of just stepping down someplace weird and, roll an ankle, or if not worse, break something. So all of this space is going to be the greenhouse, the deck that will have hopefully green stalks and rainwater containment. So I need to pull all of this out, but I don't want to. The flowers have been so beautiful. The bees and butterflies, what will they do if I pull everything out? I'm the only, property in my subdivision that's growing anything like this. So without me, they'll starve. What will they do? But anyway, that's what got going on today. I am heading back in to start the cleanup. When I have some help here, who can record me, I will be able to record some of the actual work. I don't want to only talk about it. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are interested in getting into gardening, and they don't necessarily see the ugly side of things, the hard work side of things. And for me, that's actually fun. I enjoy it. It's a good way to decompress. Look at that one little that one little tomato. They're such cuties, but they're just not going to do anything. So it's got to come out. But anyway, I want to make sure that everyone that wants to get into gardening, they understand that it's not going to be Instagram ready the second you decide to plant these gardens. There's actually a ton of work that goes into it. And, there's beauty in the work also. You learn a ton. You make all the mistakes. You correct. You improve. Like my first couple of times that I planted seedlings. They were so leggy and weak and ugly, and you know, I had no idea what I was doing, but by the time I planted the last round, they were better than anything you could have ever bought in a nursery. Like, they were strong, well rooted, healthy. I mean, it was magnificent. Over here is just something fun that I decided to do, which I don't know why I did this. This is my apple tree. This is Blossom. Hi. And I planted a couple zinnias. There's some icicle radishes and some watermelon radishes in there. A couple of alyssum, some dwarf kale. But why did I do that? I have to fertilize more because, I don't want it to rob the apple tree of its nutrients. And the pests that like these things, like they are eating up the kale and the radish leaves, it's just nuts. Why did I do that? It was pretty though. Those tomatillos, which were technically ground cherries, they were doing so good, but the weight of them, it just snapped the branches. And again, they're not getting enough sun. We don't have enough, heat left in our season before the first frost, so they're not ripening, so they're going to come out. These little sunflowers, I'm going to keep them and move them into the sun, move them into direct sun, because the sunflowers will make it into the fall. I've seen fall arrangements with sunflowers. There's some more zinnias. That one will probably make it. My nasturtiums finally showed up, but they're not as strong. Like, I was expecting these mass quantities of nasturtiums. I planted them all over the place, and I've got like 3 blooms, so I don't know what's up with that. Again, another learning moment. I'm gonna leave this bed alone long enough for these cosmos to pop out, just so I can see who she is, which one that's gonna be. I want to say this is the Pink Sensation. Super pretty. There's a couple of nasturtiums in there too. I think that is the Peach Melba. Let's see, which one are you? Peach Melba? Maybe. So anyway, that's what we have going on the corner of Whymsy and Blyss. We are going to be in full planting mode very soon. That is the guardian of the garden, Mr. Bronx Hunter Bell, who doesn't like haircuts, which is why his bangs are so long. But we're working on that. But anyway, more to come on the corner of Whymsy and Blyss. Bye.